Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ty, and this is Ty's Table Talk. I'm here to share my thoughts and opinions on the latest episodes of the reality shows we all love to watch. Now, my thoughts are my thoughts, and the reviews I share are from my perspective. But I can guarantee that at least a few of us are thinking the same things while we're watching these shows. If you're here for the first time, welcome to my channel. If you're a return viewer, thank you so much for joining me again. And y'all, I am here with a whole new review for the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 16, Episode 18, The Reunion Part 1. I just want to remind you all to please like, share, and subscribe. If you dig this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. It's a free and easy way to support this channel and its growth. With that said, y'all go ahead and pull up a seat, join me at the table, and let's get into this review. Now, y'all, I don't know what the call time was for the ladies to be on set for this reunion, but honey, it is early, okay? We see Portia sleeping on the couch in the dressing room with like a half-eaten tray of eggs and bacon at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, okay? So yes, it was definitely early. So the ladies arrive to set, they go into glam, and Kelly is getting her makeup done while taking shots at Britt. Okay, talking about people being obsessed with her team. Kelly, listen, girl, it is way too early in the morning for this nonsense. Is there nothing else on your mind at 6:30 in the morning other than Britt? How about sitting and reflecting on how you behaved this season? Or, you know what, even take some time to think about things that you are grateful for. Okay? Meditate while you're getting your makeup done, child. Already, this little strawberry shortcake has exhausted me. And we're only half a second into this thing. So, speaking of Brit, Miss Fei slides on down to her dressing room to say hello, and wouldn't you know, her dressing room is completely empty. Now, we all know by now that Britt was not going to show up at this reunion, and it's been all over the blogs that Britt is entangled in some lawsuits involving the network over what took place during the season over at Kenya Moore's hair spa, YouTube, podcast studio, okay? Y'all know Kenya's been filming her Life Twirls On, I believe, YouTube channel from the Kenya Moore hair spa. So anyway, I'm sure this is no surprise to most of us that she's not going to be there. But as the reunion was being filmed, Portia, Phaedra, and Cynthia, they're all shocked that Britt has not shown up yet. Now, I guess the reason Portia was all knocked out on the couch in that dressing room is because she had taken some magnesium, which, if y'all don't know, it can help to get things moving along in the GI tract. So shout out to Milk of Magnesia. But y'all, I guess Portia didn't know. So Phaedra has informed her of its effects, to which Portia confirmed she was experiencing. So you cannot make this stuff up, child. The stuff that's already going down 5 minutes into this reunion is hilarious. So fast forward to 11:30 a.m. Andy is on set, sitting in his seat between the two couches that these ladies will be sitting on during this taping. And, well, we see they're getting started 2.5 hours late, which tracks for the cast of this show. No matter who is on this cast, they are notorious for always being late. And not just late, but late, hours late. Now, let's talk about the looks for this reunion for a minute. The color scheme for this reunion is gold and yellow. And so Andy is rocking a gray suit, his standard outfit, y'all. We see him rocking this gray suit. Watch What Happens Live, all of the reunions. And he's wearing a yellow tie. And we've seen the ladies' reunion looks already out on the blogs over the past couple of weeks. But it's one thing to see them in pictures and another thing to actually see them on the show. So now when the ladies prance up on stage and take their seats, we get a really good look at these gowns. And I must say, my number one top pick for slaying this reunion is Portia. She absolutely slayed it with her look. The hair was gorgeous. Okay. Shout out to Go Naked Hair. The hair was on point. The gown was fabulous. Okay. She's got them girls, Coco and Chanel, sitting up just right. The shoes, the makeup, the nails, honey, everything was on point with Portia. And for me, the second runner up for the best dress at this reunion would be Miss Phaedra Parks. Okay. I loved the adornment that she had on her head. It was beautiful. And the third runner up for me would be Shamia. Now, y'all, I'm no fashionista, so I mean, y'all, don't come for me, okay? My opinion is just my opinion here. Don't come for me. Anywho, the reunion starts off with Andy checking in with all of the ladies, and Shamia is happy to walk out as a peach holder this year. Andy announces that Britt will not be there, and Portia said that she talked to Britt just the night before, and from the conversation they had, she expected Britt to be there. Now, I don't know if Britt not being there was a last minute thing or if she just never planned on going at all, but nonetheless, she was not there. And Kelly and Shamia are upset that she's not there because they wanted to hold her accountable for some of the things that she said throughout the season. Drew says Britt is suing her, and the lawsuit is in relation to something that was up on one of those poster boards at the Kenya Moore Hair Spa opening. So she was hoping to speak to Britt on that during the reunion, but now she guesses that she'll just be hearing from Britt's attorneys. I guess their attorneys will be speaking. So before they really get into all of the mess, they start off with Shamia saying a prayer in which she mentions carrying the legacy for Londi, Portia's cousin who passed away, and Angela's mother, LaMargaret, who also passed away since filming ended. And y'all, I genuinely found that to be very, very touching. It was a very touching moment, and Shamia did that with that prayer. Portia did set the intention for the day, which was for all the ladies to honor who they are and to confront each of the other women with truth. Truth seems to be something that's a little foreign to some of the ladies here in this cast. Just saying. So Portia is also wanting to figure out if she's moving forward with some of these women or if the door is going to be closed to them. Listen, we know she's currently on the outs with Drew, and there's a little static with Kelly, and she and Shamia are no longer besties. So I'm certain she was referring to them, but we shall see as the reunion progresses, I'm sure. Cynthia Cheekbones Bailey joins the main cast on stage, and Andy asks her how she felt about her role on the show this season as friend of the show. Cynthia actually loved it. And I'm sure she did because she could continue to live her life, do her podcast, handle her business, and spend time with her man, Le Prince, okay, without having to be available to film as much as the main cast had to. So she said she could relate to a lot of what was taking place on the show with the divorces and the friendship beefs because she's gone through all of it on the show, honey. She's been married on the show twice. She's been divorced on the show. She got into it with Nene. They had a friendship rift. So, yeah, she could definitely relate to what was happening this season with some of these ladies. And she could also be the voice of reason in some of these situations. Y'all, Cynthia really offered damn near all of the cast some solid advice. And I like the way that she did it. It wasn't judgy. And she actually came from a genuine place of caring. And I think that's why she and her advice was so well received by the other ladies this season. So then Andy gets into Portia's divorce. And the tension between she and Drew having to do with Dennis, the hot dog man, having to do with Portia's baby daddy. A montage of some of her scenes play, and Londi is mentioned towards the end. And y'all, you can tell this loss is very fresh and raw for Miss Portia. She starts crying, and she almost had me in tears watching her. Andy touches on Portia finally being able to film in her home, and Portia clarifies that Simon actually purchased the house. But because of the prenup that they had, the house was deemed as being the shared marital residence, And there were stipulations in the prenup which allowed the house to be awarded to her in a divorce settlement. So Andy asked Portia about the whole divorce process and how it was coming along. And Portia says it's similar to Kelly's divorce in that they had both gone to court thinking the divorce would be granted and finalized, and they both ended up leaving court still married. Now, I don't know what the hell Kelly was on at this reunion taping because she went completely left with what Portia said, whispering to Drew, talking about our divorces are not the same. Kelly, she never said they were the same, but we'll get back to that here in a minute. Portia says there's a lot she cannot tell us about the divorce for legal reasons, but she confirms that Simon was detained by ICE, which we all knew and read about in the blogs. And attorney Faye chimes in and says that Simon does not have legal citizenship in the US, so he's been detained by ICE due to his immigration issue. Simon has since been released from ICE custody and was deported back to Nigeria in June of this year. Andy then addresses the rumors that were floating about the Twitter streets, saying that Portia called ICE on Simon, but Portia clears it up real fast and says, it's fake news, y'all. It's fake. It would not have benefited her to call ICE on Simon in any way. So that never happened, and that she also still loves him. So him being in ICE custody is making things even worse for her. Shamia says that Gerald was cool with Simon and that they all took couples trips, but she wanted Portia to do her due diligence and make sure things were on the up and up with Simon because of the rumors floating about him and his scamming. So Portia said there were times that she was in danger, not physically, but she did make the choice to go ahead and file for divorce. She says that due diligence was paid for. Okay, it was paid for. So y'all take from that what you will. I don't know if she hired a private investigator or whatnot, but she claims that she did do her due diligence. But I'm a little confused here because if you did your due diligence, Portia, why were you on a plane that was being surrounded by agents, I guess, while y'all were up in the middle of the air? You know, I saw that earlier this year and it just made me think like, you did your due diligence, but you still continued to press on. And yeah. So anyway, they then move on to Kelly accusing Portia of taking Simon from his ex-wife, Fallon. Y'all remember at Shamia's birthday party when Kelly was like, why'd you take that lady's man? Portia asked Kelly if she ever got her answer, to which she says the answer was that Portia loved Simon, but it didn't seem real to Kelly. So Portia discloses that she and Kelly had private conversations talking about how they shared similar experiences during their divorce processes, in which both of their exes talked trash about them online and posted divorce documents. Kelly says, don't compare apples to peaches because she was married to Mark for 11 years and Portia was only married for 11 months. And I think Kelly is trash for saying that. Okay. Number one, some of the experiences y'all shared were in fact very similar. And I didn't hear Portia saying everything y'all experienced was alike. She didn't say y'all had the same marriage or the same divorce. Number two, Portia was not comparing y'all's marriages. However, you just did when you said that you were married for 11 years and Portia was only married for 11 months. Kelly has it out for Portia for some reason, child. Like, she has her sights set on Portia at this reunion. I feel that this energy may have really been meant for Britt, but because she didn't show up, now it's being misplaced and directed on to Portia. They move on to Portia making the comment about effing Charles, Angela's husband, knowing that people already believe she stole Simon away from his ex. Portia let us know she apologized to Angela for saying what she said, and at that Bailey cue, Angela apologized to Portia for bringing up the Simon rumors in Nashville during Portia's birthday trip, but that Angela drugged the issue out. Now, here I will say that if you make a comment like that, like what Portia made, it could be up forever with Portia. And I would not fault Angela for maintaining that energy. However, if Portia apologized and you accepted that apology and still chose to be in her presence, You have to let it go, Angela. Angela says that in Nashville during Portia's birthday trip, Shamia told her that she's the person who introduced Portia to Simon. Drew says she heard the same thing. And Drew, I bet you did the day you were laying all up on Angela's lap. Okay? Drew was looking more and more like Angela's lapdog to me, y'all. Shamia was like, oh, no, ma'am, I never said that. Faye said, run the tape back. And y'all, Bravo did just that. So we get a flashback to Nashville and we see Shamia telling the ladies at dinner in Portia's presence that she was there when Portia met Simon and she didn't have to worry about the optics because she was actually there when the relationship started. Now, during this reunion, Shamia says Portia and Simon met in each other's DMs, and Portia says that Shamia did not introduce them. But now I'm confused again here because did y'all meet in the DMs or was Shamia there when you were out and about somewhere and you met Simon? It's not adding up to me. This isn't any clearer to me than it was before y'all brought it up at this reunion. Portia was ready to move on from this topic. So she says, I was introduced to him. I had him. I gave him back. Point blank, period. Y'all, this is as clear as mud to me. But anywho, after this, a viewer's question was brought up saying that they love watching Portia and Dennis interact on YouTube and if there's any possibility that they get back together. Now, I did see that one episode on Portia's YouTube channel where she and Dennis were interacting with each other and kikiing and joking around and having a blast and whatnot. And the rumors have been swirling that Dennis and Portia are back together. Portia says Dennis is a jewel, and that's why she's been protective of their co-parenting relationship. She needed that relationship to remain on the up and up while she was going through this divorce process with Simon. We didn't get any insight about what Portia and Dennis's relationship status is, but Dennis is going to be out on the stage in one of these parts, part 2 or part 3 of this reunion. So I'm sure we'll get a little bit more information then. Kelly takes a dig about Portia's house, and Portia steps right on over that. Like she acts like she doesn't even really hear it. And Kelly, you're sounding like Cha-Cha. You know, you're sounding like your little yapping dog. Go ahead, sit there, be quiet, and hush it up. Okay, this has nothing to do with you. So they started talking about Drew, saying that Portia used her for a storyline this entire season with the whole Dennis thing. And Drew stood 10 toes down on that statement. And Portia says, you need to worry about who's down there in that basement with Wreck-It Ralph instead of focusing on me. And I agree with that. Now, Drew was a little witty here when she says, Simon says, you had no storyline. As much as Drew irks my damn nerves, y'all, I have to give it to her on that little comeback comment. That was a little funny. Andy asked Drew why she filmed with Dennis when she knew Portia felt the way about it. And Drew says that basically she was working with Dennis on the music and the music only. So if she and Dennis were in the studio and the cameras were there, it was what it was. And yes, Portia, if she really thought Drew was sleeping with Dennis for beats. And Portia said she believed the text in his shoulder that read, he told Drew he was not trying to sleep with her, but run him his money. Drew says that the Dennis situation was business only and studio time is never free. Well, duh. Portia says, yeah, that's exactly what Dennis said. Portia says she didn't have the text with her. However, Dennis is in the building and he will be on stage with them all soon. So we'll all talk then. Now, y'all, I cannot wait to see that conversation go down. I really cannot. Cynthia said Drew should have never put herself in that situation and it actually took away from the music. And I agree with Cynthia on that one. It's as if Drew's storyline with Wreck-It Ralph wasn't going anywhere, so she wrote the Dennis Portia storyline under the guise of it being about her music. Portia says again that the issue wasn't about Drew working with Dennis, it was about her filming with him. So it was at this point that I realized Drew needs an ear lavage, okay? The wax in Drew's eardrums must have really been built up this day because Drew acted like she wasn't hearing any of what Portia was saying. So because Shamea was sitting with Drew on the same couch, she said, let me tell her because she can hear me better. Drew tells Shamea to go sit back on Portia's lap. And I said, not Drew playing right up in Shamea's face, literally telling Shamea to go sit on Portia's lap, all up in her face. So y'all, Portia and Shamea start arguing because Shamea asked Drew at her party if she was sleeping with Dennis, which is where I believe all this fire from Drew is coming from towards Shamea. And Portia says she asked Shamea not to even bring it up because she wanted to keep the focus on the filming. So Shamea and Portia are arguing back and forth about whether or not Portia asked Shamea not to say anything. And Shamea is saying stuff like, oh, well, Portia doesn't tell me what to do. I wanted to ask because I wanted to know. They just keep on going back and forth. So at this point, Andy just wanted to move on. So they did. So now Portia was asked a question from a viewer asking if she felt she owed Drew an apology for treating her like she did this season, now knowing that Drew and Dennis's relationship was just all business. It was at this moment that I wanted to throw my remote at the television because Portia stood up, she walked over to Drew, and she extended a hug to her. Child, please, this was so fake and phony to me. It was actually cringe. Watching them hug, give a little fake apology, that was a no-no. Y'all should have just let that be. Portia sat back down and said that she apologizes to Drew for filming with Ralph because it was done out of spite. And at the time, she felt justified in doing so. But right after, it didn't sit right with her and she didn't feel good about it. Now, that part I do believe. I do believe Portia has a conscience. So I do believe that it just didn't sit right with her. Portia says she cared about Drew and still does, and that things could have been talked through. Drew echoes the same sentiment, so they basically kiss and make up for now. These women apologize to each other all of the time, but then they take it back. So y'all, who knows? Next, they get into the whole Kelly versus Britt versus the glam team debacle. And Kelly says it felt like Britt wanted her life. And he asks Portia what her take on all of it was. And Portia says, look, Britt mentioned that there was some jealousy going on and thought that they'd hash it out at the reunion. But again, Britt was a no-show. Kelly says Britt has nothing that she wants. Then Portia says, Britt told me that the newbies, Shamea, Britt, and Kelly, had an alliance. And right before the Grenada trip, they'd all met in Houston and talked about how they needed to step things up for the show and take Portia down. Shamea rolls her eyes and Kelly is like, please. And Phaedra says under her breath that she heard the same thing. Now, y'all know what? I used to proclaim that Shamea was my favorite, but I'm going to tell y'all, I would not put that past her because I started seeing some things towards the end of the season that did not sit right with me about Shamea, primarily the way she kept coming for Portia. And when they met up to talk about their friendship, it just seemed like Shamea was putting on with the whole, why can't we be how we are off camera, on camera BS? It just seemed a little inauthentic. And then with Kelly, y'all, if Kenya had still been on the show, a friendship with Shamea probably wouldn't have even been a second thought for Kelly. Okay, it probably would have never happened. She thought that she was going to be able to align herself with Kenya and be all up in Kenya's ass. But when she was gone, she had to find someone else to climb up off of. So enter Shamea. When Kelly teamed up with Shamea to get on Britt about the Grenada donation, Britt was like, well, screw this alliance. And you know what? I can't say that I blame Britt because I think it was really foul the way that Shamea and Kelly ganged up on Britt about the donation, especially when Britt asked how much she needed to donate. If you wanted to help your friend out, you would have said a specific amount instead of saying, oh, we'll just give whatever's on your heart. Because, baby, depending on the time of day, it could be $1 million. It could be a penny. Okay? Britt was pretty much just like, Kelly is switching up, So now I'm just going to say what I want to say. And Shamia says Portia was also a part of the alliance. Portia says alliances kills shows. So she was not a part of any alliance. She's seen it go down on the Housewives before, and she did not want any part of it. So no, she wasn't part of the little alliance. So the Charles side baby comment that Britt made towards Angela at the Bailey Q was brought up. And Kelly says she backed Britt in that moment because she was trying to be a good friend to her. But she apologized to Angela for backing Britt up and not taking a stance and saying that was wrong. The abortion comment that Britt made towards Kelly at Phaedra's event was brought up, and Kelly says there was no truth to it at all. It's her body, her choice, number one, but she shared information with her stylist that the stylist shared with Britt, but what the stylist said to Britt was not truthful. She decided after her twins were born that she did not want to have any more kids, so she had her tubes tied, and therefore there was no abortion that took place during her marriage to Mark. Now, there's 11 years there. So we're not just talking about after the twins were born. There could have been some situations that happened prior to that, but it seemed like Kelly was trying to skate right on past that and didn't really want to be 100% forthcoming about that whole abortion situation, because I really do believe there's more to it than what's being said here at this reunion. So at the time the reunion was filmed, Kelly's divorce was officially finalized. So she says she felt free. She spent $200,000 on the divorce, and Andy asked if the ladies thought Kelly having a bodyguard was strange. Portia says no. We know she has one for two reasons. Number one, that her ex-husband was coming after her, but Portia heard that Mark was not coming after Kelly, and that the bodyguard was just for looks for the show, which would be reason number two. Portia didn't say who she heard that from, but that it was not from Britt. Drew says Mark reached out to Ralph for what I don't know, but then we see a little clip of Ralph saying that Mark said that basically Kelly was lying. Kelly says, listen, I had a restraining order in place, and restraining orders aren't just handed out because it's 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, okay? So there has to be cause. And Phaedra kind of steps in and says, well, anything could really be a cause for a restraining order to be in place. So, I'm not going to doubt what Kelly was saying about what she experienced during her marriage. And I'm not going to doubt that Kelly is fearful of her ex. Given what she's disclosed on the show, I mean, there's reason for her to be fearful. So there's that. The second Nana's Chicken and Waffles location is still not open, and there are allegations that the reason was because Kelly owed $100,000 rent on the second property. Kelly says this is true, but she's paid a good amount of that back due rent, and the location is set to open soon. Y'all, it's giving She Buys Charade, spring, summer, fall, okay? A viewer wrote in asking, why are you buying your daughter 11 million bags for her birthday and having your dog died? And Kelly said those expenses were necessary. And it's Andy for the shade, y'all. He said, invest in your business and not in getting the dog's hair dyed different colors. Andy asked Shamia if she was the reason Kelly and Britt's friendship ended because Kelly and Shamia were getting closer. And Shamia says no. She actually tried to mediate, but ended up catching a stray. Kelly says she and Britt will probably never be friends again because the friendship was one-sided and not reciprocal. It was not equally yoked. We then move on to this whole Junebug situation and Phaedra being accused of sending Homeboy, aka Mr. Marcus, to Kelly's cooking event to out Charles' alleged cheating on Angela. Angela says Marcus is from Athens, Georgia, same as Phaedra, and that his aunt is some woman named Kimberly. And Phaedra says she does not know this Kimberly person. Angela then pulls out a file, child. Okay, she pulls out a file showing pictures of this Kimberly woman saying she's friends with Phaedra's brother. Phaedra looks at the photo and says, yes, that is my older brother, and they went to high school together. And Phaedra says, I come from a family of 4. So anybody from Athens could have gone to the same high school as any of my siblings. It's pretty much giving, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Angela is sitting up there trying to connect the dots, and she is convinced that Phaedra paid Marcus to be at Kelly's event and that Phaedra is back to take Angela's spot or to secure her own spot on the show. And baby, what? Phaedra is an OG, okay? She's an OG. She was asked to come back on the show. And regardless of whatever the reason was for that, she's back. She's a presence. And listen, as far as I'm concerned, she has no need to play any games to secure her spot on this show. Her spot is most definitely secured because she is Phaedra, period. I don't know why Angela and Kelly were on during this reunion taping, but child, get them off of it, okay? Because they sound utterly ridiculous and crazy to me. But y'all, that was the end of part 1 of this reunion. So far, this reunion has been a little lackluster for me, to be honest. Not much is really being exposed, and they're pretty much just rehashing what we've already seen this season on the show. But we still have a little more of this Junebug situation to talk about. The husbands / boyfriends / baby daddies are going to join, and I can't wait to hear what is going to come out of Charles's mouth. And we still have to get into this King and Moore hairstyle debacle. And I truly hope we get more details about that whole day and what was on those poster boards, because Britt is saying the chick in the photos was not her. So y'all, comment down below and let me know what you think of this reunion so far. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And y'all, listen, I do have a new YouTube channel out. So if you're into casinos and slot play, check out my new YouTube channel, Ty's Colorado Slots. I will go ahead and post the link for that in the description. Okay, check that out. There's one video up now. There will be more videos up soon. And make sure you come back for next week's review for part 2 of this reunion. Until next time, y'all, stay safe, stay blessed, and don't forget to tell someone you love them today, and make sure that you love up on yourselves. Love y'all. Peace.